A very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. A warm welcome to today's show. I am Aisha, joining all of you today from London and your host for today. Today is World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, 15th of June, and today's show is going to discuss and explore some of the dark realities of elder abuse and explore some of the possible remedies of elder abuse. Unfortunately, abuse of senior citizens is an underrated and underappreciated phenomenon when it is compared to other vulnerable groups in society. So, during the talk show today, our aim is going to be to understand how we can identify elder abuse, what are some of the tools and techniques, and what are some of the possible remedies to tackle this burning problem of society. Without wasting further time, I would like to invite today's guest, and we have with us our expert today, Dr. Indrani Chakravarti, who's joining us from Kolkata. Dr. Indrani Chakravarti is an award-winning gerontologist and the chief functionary of Calcutta Metropolitan Institute of Gerontology Regional Resource and Training Center on Aging. Dr. Chakravarti, a very warm welcome to today's show.
Namaskar.
Namaskar. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today. So, Dr. Chakravarti, is a day which is quite significant because 15th of June is World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. As I said at the very onset of today's show, that it is an underappreciated and an underrated problem when compared to other vulnerable groups. So, in today's show, we are going to discuss more about the types of abuses, the categories of abuse that we can see in society, and what are the possible solutions and remedies that are in place, and how we can go about dealing with the problem. Let me start with the very first question, Dr. Indrani. Why is it so difficult to identify or pinpoint elder abuse?
So, at the outset, I would like to say that we will focus mostly on that kind of abuse which occurs within the four walls of the household, where the perpetrators of abuse are near and dear ones, children, adult children, caregivers, spouse, where trust is the basis of relationship. So, this abuse as a social problem remains fully hidden within the domain of family privacy. So that is the most important point while we are discussing anything about abuse. Yes, we have very little statistical data regarding elder abuse. The reason is that the senior citizens who are the victims of abuse, they are dependent on the perpetrators for meeting their needs. So they're scared to disclose anything about the perpetrators themselves. And secondly, the perpetrators, they do not want to disclose, share, or acknowledge this kind of behavior because they know fully well that our society will not sanction this type of behavior. Indian society is automatically respectful to elder persons, and it is actually they never sanction, they never approve this kind of abusive behavior of the children. So they do not want to disclose it. So this is the reason that why we don't have data regarding the percentage of abuse that is going on. So there are three major reasons why it is very difficult to detect abuse. The first is there is no there are three reasons. Let me say what are the three reasons. That is, the first is the lack of mandatory mechanism to report mistreatment. The second is our value system. Our mothers, they never want to complain against their son or daughter. So a stigma is attached all the time. So they do not want to say anything about their children. So where trust is the basis of relationship. They do not want to say anything against their children. And the third point is lack of any definitional clarity. What is abuse? So it is not easy to prove that son's behavior or daughter's behavior is abusive, and that is why it is very difficult to detect abuse in our country.
Thank you, ma'am. So, as you said that, so the problems, one of the key problem is that the perpetrators of abuse are the beloved ones of
Yes.
those who are being abused. And here, this is the emotional turmoil and the family dynamics and the relational dynamics and the cultural equation which comes into play when it comes to elder abuse, and which makes the whole problem much more complex than
Complex.
expected.
Yeah. Yes.
So from here, ma'am, if I move to the next question, although you say that it is very difficult to identify, detect elder abuse, and there are limited mechanisms to come about and detect abuse of senior citizens, during your years of work, what are the types of abuse or types of elder abuse that you have observed?
Very broadly, we divide abuse into two groups. One is overt, another is covert. Overt is direct, obvious, whereas covert is hidden. Hidden. So, whatever be the type of abuse, it affects the well being of the senior citizen. It deprives the elderly of love, care, concern, and understanding, very much needed for their well being. Though it is very difficult to detect abuse, case study method, researchers adopted various other methods. One is case study method, focus group discussion is another method, and life cycle approach, some qualitative survey. Uh, this type of research methodology have taken to understand what exactly is going on within the four walls of the family. The first is that it reveals, all this stray research reveals that the perpetrators of abuse constitute adult children, more than 80%. So adult children, mostly son or daughter, to some extent next comes the spouse and the daughter-in-law, son-in-law, but son constitutes nearly majority proportion of the perpetrators of abuse, following spouse. As a matter of fact, we can say anyone who is in the position of power, control, and authority within the family can become a perpetrator of abuse.
Right, right. And thank you, Dr. Indrani. I have a question here from the audience, which I feel is quite relevant, and I might just bring it up right now. The question here is: majority of senior citizens have lack of financial independence and are heavily dependent for the day-to-day finances and economic stability uh, on their family. So, is lack of financial independence a very important reason which can lead to
Abuse.
susceptibility of abuse?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Definitely, sir. Surely that. Because they are dependent for meeting their needs, basic needs, on the perpetrators. That's the problem. But it is not the sole reason. Financial reason is one. I am telling you that there are many categories of abuse.
Right.
Though basically we divide it into two broad groups, but according to the nature of abuse, we can classify it in more five groups. The first is that physical one, abandonment. Abandonment is the extreme form of abuse which is punishable under the law. But in addition to abandonment, physical torture, beating, slapping, pushing. These are all physical abuse, as we said. And also to some extent sexual abuse, though sexual abuse is not very common in India. It is not very common kind of abuse. After physical abuse, we can mention psychological abuse, verbal abuse, very important kind of abuse. Verbal abuse, insultation, ignoring, neglect, blackmailing, moral blackmailing, threatening them to admit to old age homes. These are the examples of psychological abuse. The third important is financial, grabbing money, snatching material, and force the mother or father to sign the check for withdrawing money, and also force the parents to sign any property deeds. These are all financial abuse. These are going on. May not be isolately, but at a time. Okay. And then comes the denial of rights. So depriving them from practicing their religion practices, the rituals, etc., or denying them to cast vote. These are the denial of rights. And finally, the fifth group is neglect. Neglect is the most common type of abuse, which cannot be, it is notoriously difficult to detect neglect. So no steps can be taken against that. So the thing is that as I run daycare centers, CMIG runs two daycare centers in two different geographical areas of the city. So we observe almost regularly how this marginalized elderly, they face overt abuse almost every day, abandonment, physical abuse, depriving them from food, depriving them from shelter. So all these are all very common phenomena. So we observe this, and we are taking some steps to how to overcome all these problems, because as this child research, the the methods that adopted by the scholars also shows that every third senior citizen is a victim of abuse. That means 30%. But the nature of abuse different for different socioeconomic class. You know that in our daycare center, the beneficiaries, they belong to marginalized class. So most of the abuse, the nature is overt. As I said, that is the overt abuse. You can see that the person is hurt by her son or daughter-in-law or anybody in the family, even the grandsons, granddaughters. But as you go up to the ladder, socioeconomic status, the nature becomes covered. It is so difficult. The mostly psychological, verbal, verbal abuse, psychological abuse, and financial abuse, and also pressing them to write the property to in their names, the all sign in the deeds. So everything is going on, but these are all covered within the four walls of the household. No one, no one actually they explain what exactly is going on. We understand something is going on, but it is difficult to find out. So research fails here.
Thank you, ma'am. And I would be going more as you talked about the covert and overt forms of abuse. And of course, this is one thing that sometimes, in most cases, is easier to identify and evaluate the nature of abuse as we go lower down the economic
Yes,
strata.
yes, yes.
In the
Um,
well-off class of society, it's more of
never, never, never. Yes.
it's a hush hush thing that
Yes,
yeah, that victims will
but
never
but
be
it
willing
Yes, but it affects the well-being of the senior citizens. It deprives them of all kind of concern, all kind of love, care that is very much needed in this age.
Right.
And finance is not the only reason, maybe one of the reasons. But there are many, many older persons, older women, older mother who possess property. Still they are victim of abuse. These are psychological abuse.
Right, right. And before we go ahead and discuss some of the remedies of these abuse, these forms of abuse, ma'am, I would like to ask one question. You briefly mentioned when you were highlighting the categories and the different types of abuse. I recall you mentioning that abandonment is punishable by law. So a
Yes,
question which the masses would want to know, what is the role of law over here? Is there any unifying legal framework that can help the victims of abuse, or are the lines on boundaries of law still not very clearly defined when it comes to elder
yes.
abuse?
Your second answer is true because you know that, as I said, that it is very difficult to prove abuse. So, law means that you have to prove something. So, how to do that? Neglect you cannot prove. So, denial of rights you cannot prove. And the most important thing, that the victims of abuse never come forward. They never come forward. So when one of our beneficiaries, they are very much badly tortured by their son or daughter, the first our task is to, our social workers take them to nearby police station. But most of them deny. Why? Because they say that they feel it is their, uh, they are not, they do not want their son or daughter to be harassed by the police. So they deny to go to the police station. So what is the remedy then? We have no other alternative but to send them to old age homes. Herein comes the role of law. Because you know that new law has come into existence, that Maintenance and Welfare of Parents and Senior Citizens Act. And according to this law, in every district, there must be an old age home for the indigent elderly persons. In our state, West Bengal, there are 28 such old age homes. And the NGOs run this old age home, and they get the financial help, as we call GIA, grant in it, from the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. So these beneficiaries, finally, we send them to these old age homes for their. So here, this in the old age homes, they can stay with dignity during the last phase of their life. That is the ultimate thing.
Thank you, ma'am. And from here, if I would just have to, try and understand, this is like a heterogeneous problem, which
Yes, the
cannot,
heterogeneous.
yeah,
Yes, very
like,
much.
yes, so there can be multifold solutions to it, and it's like there's no one clear cut remedy or no one clear cut solution of elder abuse. But if you were to discuss some of the important
Remedies.
remedies of elder abuse,
Yes.
then what would you like to say?
Yes. Actually, scholars, those who are working by adopting various methodology, including the qualitative one, they suggest some remedies that can be applied at three levels of any nation. That is macro level, meso level, and micro level. Let me explain what is macro level. In the curriculum, you know, They sincerely believe, all the scholars unanimously said, that education is the most effective and the most hopeful way to eradicate abuse. And that should be started from the very beginning. So, actually, what abuse is? If I ask you that what is abuse? Abuse is nothing but the negative attitude of the society towards the elderly person. You know, just like racism, just like sexism, ageism. Ageism is the term coined by Robert Butler, very renowned gerontologist of USA. Ageism means the stereotyping, and this type of stereotyping can be eradicated, can be ruled out through education only. Again, if I come to the meso level, on PPT model, we can do something. Some of the study reveals that adult children, many adult children, they provide 24 hours caregiving role. They perform this caregiving 24 hours caregiving role for their parents. Sometimes this 24 hours caregiving role lead to abuse, generate abusive behavior, irritation, some kind of irritation. So, to rule out this possibility, more and more 24 into 7 uh, facilities like hospice, palliative care, helpline, multi service center, counseling center should be set up, many more in numbers on PPT model. This is at the meso level. And finally, at the micro level, in 1999, our national policy on older persons has been formulated, and it started with the sentence that seniors are asset to the society, not a liability. They are not just consumers of goods, they can be their producers. And they have huge potentials that can be utilized for the benefit of the society. So, what we feel, what we say, productive aging, the seniors can do many things. Purposeful activity, some planning after retirement, according to their aptitude, some kind of engagement. These are the need of the hour. And finally, another point is that strong social bonds outside the family. And this is mostly applicable for the mother and widowed mother, because the widowed mothers are the victims of abuse compared to their counterparts. Only if they can join the ladies club, the senior citizens organization, the retired welfare organizations, only this kind of, and engage themselves in some kind of activities. There are so many activities. They can learn something. Lifelong learning is a concept that has come now in the society. Any kind of activity help them to prevent abuse. And also the family members, they also will not abuse them, because most of the time some of the activities are more important in their life than just family problems. So they have to go out from the four walls of the household.
Thank you, ma'am. And of all the things, all the points that you emphasized over here, one of the things that I specifically picked up, being an oncology researcher myself, if a senior citizen is terminally ill and
Yeah.
suffering from terminal illness like cancer or
Yes.
very prominent diseases like Alzheimer's or dementia, which completely erodes their intellectual capability and any sort of capability of rationality or memory or anything like that, the circumstances become much
Yeah.
more
More,
dangerous.
danger. Because they need 24 hours care.
Right,
They need 24 hours care. And here comes the financial condition.
right.
So it is still very expensive in our country. Only a proportion, a percentage of senior citizens can afford to do that. So abuse is obvious in that case. Who will
Right.
take care? That is why more and more, I mean, that hospice, helpline, uh, palliative care services should come up more in the society.
These
Maybe
these uh, these
promotion,
services
yeah,
should come into
services.
to play.
These
Right.
services are very, very important.
Yeah. Okay, and these should come into play and increase in numbers and penetrate in
Number.
different, yeah,
Yes.
penetrate in different areas of the society. Ma'am, I have a quick question from one of our viewers. She's requesting if you can slightly elaborate the maintenance law that you mentioned.
You know, there are some unique characteristics of this law, because this is the first time that our country uh, formulated this kind of law. And the unique characteristics is the name is the maintenance and welfare of parents and senior citizens. What is the difference between parents and senior citizens? No law so far in our land distinguished between parents and senior citizens. This law first distinguishes that, but senior citizens may not be parents, they may not have any offspring. So the law is equal for everyone, all senior citizens 60 plus in our country. It is applicable to everyone. That is the first point. The second point, the unique characteristics is not only the biological children, the adoptive one, the stepfather, stepmother, all fall within this Maintenance Act, not just the biological children. And third point is that the senior citizens 60 plus, as we know, but sometimes if the tribunal feel that they need some maintenance from their children, then they can reduce the age. For example, the widow mother, she may not attain the 60 age, but they need very badly the maintenance from his son, so she can apply, she is eligible to apply. And fourth, we know that, uh, as you know, khadya vastro vasasthan, these are the major three needs of the human being. Okay, clothes, shelter, and food. But this law include care and medical facilities within these basic needs of senior citizens. Because senior citizens need medicine, they may have money to take food, but they may not have the money to take medicine. So it is the responsibility of the offspring to provide this, the basic facilities. This is the basic facility of the senior citizens. And then again, the most important thing, there are many, I just try to remember the unique characteristics of this, that if the parents give their property to the wife or children with the expectation that the children will take care of the parents during old age, but they fail to do so. In that case, that property, the tribunal has the power to to return this property to the senior citizens, and this, I mean, this, what is it said, that the deed will be uh, will be cancelled, will become null and void. Okay, so there is a, I think there's a most important point. Most important point.
Right.
And there are many the tribunal and tribunal. No lawyer is required here. No, there no money is required, no lawyer is required, and 90 days time is given. There are two tribunals, and in every district, at least one maintenance tribunal and one appellate tribunal is there. In our state, West Bengal, in every district there are maintenance tribunal and appellate tribunal. And if you apply for maintenance within 90 days, the maintenance tribunal will give their verdict. No lawyer is required. No money is required. It is free for everybody, for all senior citizens.
Thank
And
you.
if the senior only senior citizens can appeal to the appellate tribunal, the children cannot go there.
Okay.
That is also important point to be mentioned. There are many. I think that I'm not prepared to do this because law is so big and so
That's
large.
right.
There are
These
so many sections. Yeah.
are, these are the salient features, and I believe that you have
Yes, yes. These are the
described.
salient features and some unique characteristics of the law.
Yes, yes,
Yes.
and I believe you have described at large the
Yeah, yeah.
most relevant and the most
Most
important.
relevant points and some unique points,
That's right.
because
So
property can go back to the senior citizens.
right,
Yeah.
and
And
that's
there
a
is a
very
power given to the maintenance tribunal. So maintenance tribunal can act as first judicial magistrate, the same power, and as a court. It is an administrative office, but sometimes they act, when they become the maintenance tribunal, they act as a court. So they have the right to summon somebody, to show them some documents, etc., etc., etc.
right. Thank you, Dr. Indrani, for explaining at large the maintenance law. And so, thank you so much. Now, let us move on and focus on the 2024 theme for elder abuse. If you'd
Now,
like to say a few words on the 2024 theme for elder abuse.
yes, the theme is spotlight on older persons in emergencies. You know, emergencies like pandemic, like war, or natural calamities, any kind of natural calamities. All these situations increase the risk of elder person being abused, increase the risk of being abused. More and more they become the victim of abuse. It is financial abuse, it is physical abuse, and it is psychological abuse. So this time that United Nations, uh, it emphasizes the urgent need to protect and support older individuals during this crisis period, and also highlights the need to provide training, education to the caregivers, to the emergency workers, to the family members, and the public in general.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And so, Dr. Indrani, so does a new theme get introduced every year, or is this like a speciality of the year 2024, like having a specific theme for elder abuse?
No, the new thinking every year.
New thinking, almost
Every year.
new thinking
Yes.
every year. Okay. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. I will now be, because we are almost nearing the conclusion of the program, I'll gradually proceed to the case study and CMIG's role in elder abuse awareness. Before doing so, I would just like to take up another interesting question from one of our viewers. The question is that can elder abuse and neglect vary or have different interpretations in different cultural environments? For example, the viewer has given the example. For example, a grandmother might consider not being involved in her granddaughter's marriage, the decision making or the choice of partner, as a neglect or an emotional abuse in some traditional societies. But in
Yes.
some more advanced or Western
Yes.
societies, this is a very acceptable norm or a very acceptable tradition.
Yes. The who asked these questions, and convey my gratitude and thanks to her or him,
Yes.
because this is absolutely okay. Because you know that it varies from culture to culture, from country to country.
Right.
In our country, we feel if my son never includes me in any decision making process, I
Right.
feel insulted. I feel as I am the surplus member of the household. I'm nobody here. I have no power, no authority. So, something it is not inclusion, as you said that it's an inclusive family. It's not like that, but they're completely different in developed countries. It differs from culture to culture, from country to country.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, and I believe each culture has their own ways, of,
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
defining and evolving with
yes.
generations as well.
Because you know, India is automatically respectful
Yes,
to elderly person,
yes,
and it is absolute. This abusive behavior is absolutely contradictory to our value system. Absolutely contradictory. It may not. This thing also vary from country to country.
that's right. That's right, and thank you. I hope you have got your answer, and thank you so much for such a relevant question.
Any question? Yeah.
Truly appreciate that. Many thanks. And Dr. Indrani, now I would like to move to the last leg of today's show, which is the case study that we have got from
Yes.
CMIG. So, first, I would be playing the case study because we are trying to show some
Yes.
examples and cases of real life sufferers and victims who come to us and have this are undergoing through this very painful problem. So I'll be first playing the video of one of our beneficiaries, CMIG's beneficiaries, Jayanti Dash. And once I have played the video and she has spoken and described her case, I'll come back to you regarding a brief interpretation of the case. And if you would also like to add some points as to what's we have already touched based upon them in earlier in the show, but if you'd like to highlight some points on what CMIG's role is in generation of elder abuse awareness. So I would now be going to the case study of CMIG's beneficiary, Jayanti Dash.
আমি জয়ন্তী দাস। আমি সোপানকুঠিতে মায়ের কাছে এসেছি। মা আমাকে অনেক সাহায্য করেছে। সাহায্য সত্ত্বেও আমি সব জিনিস আমার ছেলে এসে বউ এসে নিয়ে যেত, কিন্তু তা সত্ত্বেও আমার উপরে এই অত্যাচার আর শেষ হয় না। আমি 3 মাস পুলিশের থানায় ঘুরেছি, আমি ভিক্ষা করেও খেয়েছি, আমি লেকেও ভিক্ষা করেছি, রাস্তায় রাস্তায় হাত পেতে খেয়েছি। কিন্তু আমাকে কোনো রকমের পাশের বাড়িতে আমি 3 মাস ছিলাম, পাশের ঘরে বদ্দির কাছে। সে বদ্দি হলো আমার কারখানার লেবার, তার কাছে থাকতাম। আর তারপরে সেইখান থেকে আমাকে টেনে নিয়ে এসে বেধু মারধর করে। আমি এই মারধর আর সহ্য করতে পারি না। পাশে আমার একজন বুয়া বলে একটি শিবশঙ্কর বলে একটি ছেলে আছে, জয়দেবের ছেলে। সেই ছেলে আমাকে সেই আশ্রমে নিয়ে যায়। আশ্রমে নিয়ে গিয়ে সবার সঙ্গে পরিচয় করে দেয়। অলকানন্দ আশ্রমটা করেছে, সেই আশ্রমে আমি থাকার জায়গা পেয়েছি। তাতে আমি অনেক সুখে আছি। আমি আর কোনোদিন বাড়ি যাওয়ার আশাও করব না। আর মা আমাকে যা হেল্প করবে সেই হেল্পে আমি এখন চলবো। ওখানে কিছু টাকা দিতে হয়, কিন্তু আমি তো টাকা পাবো কোথায়? এই মায়ের যা সাহায্য পাবো সেই টাকা আমি সেই জিনিস ওদেরকে দিয়ে দেবো, দিয়ে সেখানেই আমি থাকবো আর থাকবো। আর আমার একটি প্রতিবন্ধী মেয়ে আছে, সেই মেয়েটির উপরে অনেক মারধর হয়। তারপরে আমি 3-4 মাস একদম পাগলের মতো ঘুরে বেড়াইছি। আমি তখন আমার লজ্জা শরম কিছু ছিল না, আমি ভাত পেতে ভিক্ষা করে খেয়েছি। কিন্তু তবুও আমার উপরে অত্যাচারের শেষ নেই। পুলিশের থানায় কিছু করতে পারেনি। আমি যখন ভোট দিতে যাই দেখি আমার ছোট ছেলে ভোটে বুথে বসে আছে। আমি যখন ভিতরে ঢুকছি তখন আমার ছোট ছেলে বলে দেয় যে জয়ন্তী দাস 19 নম্বর। আমি 16 নম্বরে ভোট দিয়েছি। এহ, আর আমি তো আর এত দুঃখে এত কষ্টে আমি তবুও রয়েছি ঘরে, কিন্তু বারবার এরকম ভাবে মার খেয়ে খেয়ে আমার এই এই অশান্তি আর ভোগ করতে পারি না। আমি একটা উড়ে বাগানে আশ্রমে চলে গেছি। আমি আবার মায়ের কাছে এসেছি, মা সোপানকুঠিতে। মা আমাকে একবার পাঠিয়েছিল আমাকে যে পুলিশের সাহায্য নিয়ে যে ইসে চলে যাও মেদিনীপুর কোলাঘাটে। সে আমি কোলাঘাটে তখন যেতে পারিনি, কিন্তু এখন আর আমি সহ্য করতে পারিনি। আমি এখন উড়ে বাগান আশ্রমে গেছি। সেই আশ্রম অলোকা নন্দা ওরা করেছে। ওরা আমাকে অনেক ভালোবাসে। আমি আর কোনোদিন বাড়িতে যাব না, ওই নিয়েই থাকবো। আর এখান থেকে আমার মা যা সাহায্য করবে সেই সাহায্য নিয়ে আমি এখানে থাকবো। মা কদিন পরে এই অফিস খুলবে, খুললে আমি এখানে এসে থাকবো। আর আমি এখন একটু অশান্তিতে আছি। ওখানে সব বৃদ্ধা তো, বৃদ্ধাদের মধ্যে চেঁচামেচি ঝগড়াঝাঁটি এরকম হয়। তাও সহ্য করে আছি, কিন্তু ওখানে মুখার্জিদা খুব ভালো। মুখার্জিদা এসে আমার হয়েই অনেক লড়াই করে। তা আমি এখন সুপানকুঠিতেই বসে আছি মায়ের কাছে। আমি মায়ের কাছ থেকে রেশন নিতে এসেছি। মা আমাকে সব কিছু হেল্প দিয়েছে। আবার যখন মায়ের অফিস খুলবে আমি অফিসে আসবো। আমি রোজ মা তো টিফিন দেয়, সব দেয়, মায়ের কাছে থাকবো। কিন্তু রাতে তো মা ব্যবস্থা ছিল না, আমাকে কোলাঘাটে পাঠাচ্ছিল, কিন্তু আমি কোলাঘাটে যেতে পারিনি। আমার একটা মানসিক প্রতিবন্ধী মেয়ে আছে, সেই মেয়েটার জন্য। এখন আমার মেয়েটা রোজ আমাকে গিয়ে দেখে আসে, আমার ঘরের থেকে বালিশ দিয়ে আসে, কাপড় চোপড় দিয়ে আসে। ওই মেয়ে আমাকে না দেখে থাকতে পারে না। আগে কদিন ঢুকতে দিয়েছে আশ্রমে, এখন আর ঢুকতে দেয় না, জানলা দিয়ে কথা বলে চলে আসে।
The pain and agony a person is suffering from.
And as I said, Dr. Indani, because I was a little bit overwhelmed to hear the case study and
Yes.
her story. So the facts of the case are painful and disturbing. Seeing the types of abuse
Abuse.
she has faced at multiple coordinates. So I'll have a twofold question here. First of all, a few words from your end regarding the interpretation of this case, and the second part of my question would be a few words, if you can share a few words on CMIG's role in tackling elder abuse.
We tried to send this beneficiary to old age home, but could not because she has one daughter and she cannot go alone there. So that is a problem that I could not do that. And you know that we have two daycare centers. So for the time being, one daycare center is closed, as she said, because we don't have the sufficient resource to run two daycare centers at a time. But every month we provide them ration. The problem is it is not food. It is not due to food. It is
Spending the time.
really spending time and exchanging their ideas amongst their problems, their uh, painful stories amongst their peer groups. So these things are not available now. So that is the problem. And in this ashram also takes money, so 600 per month, and I'm paying that from my own because you know that ours is a government aided organization, and this for daycare center is completely based on charity. So we cannot spend much money on these beneficiaries. In 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 this Jayanti Mashima's case, actually, his son, I think, he's a pathological, he has some problem. And he has a pathological perpetrators of abuse. Not only he abused his mother, but also the sister. So, but in that case also, I failed to take Jayanti Mashima to the police station. I failed. See, in Bengali there is a proverb, কুপুত্র যদি বা হয় কুমাতা কখনো নয়, and she is the example of that proverb. This is the first thing. And secondly, as you said, that what exactly the role of CMIG, we are the Regional Resource and Training Center of the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, and being RRTC, we have to conduct various programs. I mean that sensitization programs for different stakeholders of the society, for youth, school, college, university students, for the youth, for senior citizens, for family members, for caregivers, for NGOs, for everyone against abuse. You know that one organization has been set up internationally. The name is International Network on Prevention of Elder Abuse, INPEA, and it was founded in 1997. Its purpose is to eradicate abuse from the world, and their slogan is "My world, your world, our world, free of elder abuse." We are trying to do that, but we have very limited resources and limited manpower, so we cannot do. But we are trying to do that at every level of the society.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. And Kollan, thank you for your comment. Essential program by CMIG. Of course, it's a very, very important program and a very important topic as well. So, ma'am, we have reached almost the end of today's program. My sincere thanks to you for discussing the topic, elaborating so many unheard things and unknown facts and figures, and exploring the realities and trying to
Yes.
uh, emphasize and highlight the remedies of elder abuse. And, ma'am, before we close, thank you so much for your time. Before we close the talk show, just if you just want to say a few lines to those victims, because today is World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. If you want to say a few lines to those victims of elder abuse who are suffering in silence, if there's any message you would like to give to them.
So I would like to say that please speak out. You know that even telephonic conversation will help them to remove abuse, to rule out abuse to a great extent. So the person who is the sufferer, if he or she do not come forward, how we can do anything for them? So my uh, prayer to everybody is, you say what exactly is going on over telephone, and helpline is also necessary, and we'll give the telephone number to everybody, all the senior citizens in the city Calcutta. We are trying to do that. Not yet realized, but we are trying to do that.
Okay, thank you. And hopefully, we keep taking small to large steps in trying
Yes,
to achieve more and more milestones to eradicate elder abuse from our society. And hopefully, all of us together, different professionals, different people, different age groups across different countries, we manage to create societies which are free from abuse of senior citizens. Thank you. And here we have reached the end of today's program. Dr. Indrani Chakravarti, thank you so much once again for joining us for today's show. And I would like to say thank you and goodbye for now to all of our viewers. Next week, I'll be back with another talk show. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. Bye.
thank you.